Thank you, Lynn. I think we've got two great leaders in the state of Washington, Pete Carroll and Lynn. How about Lynn? Just a personal note, tell you why I'm so excited to be here. Lynn mentioned my dad. My dad was a great coach, very hard-nosed but loved coach and teacher. It made me think of my dad. I remember one time my dad taught me how to work. I was very lucky. I had a dad that taught me how to work, and he taught me how to paint houses. We used to paint houses together in the summer. And his number one lesson to me is when you paint, you got to keep your brush full of paint. He was all about keeping your brush really, really full if you're going to get it on. Now, as a consequence, when I went home, because we'd stand on a plank together, I would be covered with whatever color the house was. But I remember one day about 3 o'clock on a hot August afternoon, standing on that plank, and I was kind of slowing down, and just, I was tired. I was 14 or 15 at the time, and he just looked at me with kind of disgust, and he just said, you're going about half speed here. You only worked about 6 hours. And he just said, at this rate, you're not going to amount to anything. And I looked him right in the eyes, held my brush, and I said, Dad, I want to tell you, someday I will talk to the governor's Youth Apprenticeship. So I'm sure he's smiling on us all. And he appreciates helping other people work. This is, I've got the best job in the world, and it really is the best job in the world, the best state in the country. But the funnest thing is working on these apprenticeships. And I'll tell you why, because it is a kind of a revolutionary change in how we think of our children's future. And whenever you have a revolution, it's great to be right at the beginning of the revolution. So when Dan Evans started the community college system leading the nation, that was a revolution. When we started the Run and Start program, that was a revolution. Well, when we were in Tacoma with was it 12 or 15 at AJAC in Tacoma? Was it 12 or 15 people signed up? Can't remember. We'll call them 12, the clean dozen. When we started the AJAC program with the first 12 people in Tacoma in the AJAC program, and now that this year, students are going to graduate with a production technician certification card and 15 college credits, and $28,000 in earnings, and no debt because of our apprenticeship program. This is the start of a revolution. And it was just so much fun because they had the companies that these apprentices are going to go work for. They're all up there, and they had their T-shirt and their hat with their company logo on it, and they're all up at the table. And then they would call up the apprentice. And they come up like LeBron James on draft day. And they come up, put the shirt on and the hat, and their parents were there, and their parents were just as excited about them as LeBron James's parents were when he got drafted. And that's how we feel about this, because it's a burst of optimism, and it's a vision for a future that is the most exciting thing you can do for a young person is to have a connection with their own future. And that's what this fundamentally is about. So I want to thank all of you, because you are all leaders on this effort. I'm just one of them, and I'm looking forward to the years to come where we grow this dramatically. And we know we need to grow this dramatically. We've had a great start. We've got a long ways to go because, 90% of parents say their kid's going to get a 4-year college degree, but only 30% do, and such a vast number of them don't need it. And we know that the single most important thing we got to do, and you probably have heard me say this before, but we got to stop telling our kids that you're a failure if you don't get a 4-year degree. And this discussion starts with that principle where we create the honor of being in an apprenticeship program. Now, when we went to Switzerland, we saw what that really means, having an honor of being in an apprenticeship program. And this change is as much cultural as it is economic or institutional. This is a cultural change. So when we went to Switzerland, we saw a country where 70% of the students at age 18 or 19 are in a paid apprenticeship program. And every one of those students are looked at as a top-notch young person with a top-notch career ahead of them. I'll give you an example of that. We went and met at a college, and it's EDL or EDLF. It's the MIT of of Switzerland. And we met the president of that college. And he started an apprenticeship program. So he was an apprentice at one time. Then he went back sort of in the academic channel and ended up the president of the MIT of Switzerland. And what he told us is that the competition to get into their apprenticeship program, that's the apprenticeship program the college runs for their HVAC people and their technicians and their computer technologists and their clinical people in their healthcare system. The competition to get in their apprenticeship program is more fierce than to get into the MIT College of Switzerland. So they have developed a system where your child is just as successful in an apprenticeship program as they are going to MIT. Now that's a cultural change that we are engaged in developing. And the reason I say that, it is as important, the culture in changing a country as important as the institutional things that we're going to do together. And all of us get to be leaders on that, talking to our churches and our Kiwanis and our employers about how to change how we look at these systems. So, where are we on this today? Well, we've had a good start. For 16 consecutive quarters, our state has expanded our registered apprenticeship programs, and that includes Apprenti, which is the first one in the nation for computer skills. And when I went to the shores of Elliott Bay and saw those 41st in the history of the nation, I saw a revolution taking place in the internet in the computer field. And those people are ready to rock and roll. It includes the AJAC program that we talked about, and we're expanding it. And I was somewhere yesterday, and I talked to somebody. Who was it? Help me out. Who did I talk to yesterday, David? Help me out, Tom.
You're in Tenino.
What's that?
Tenino.
I was in Tenino yesterday, and we were talking about the expansion of this apprenticeship program. Now, when you got business people in Tenino, Washington, talking about expansion of the apprenticeship program, we're on to something. And that's what we are, to expand this, to grow this every single year. We were one of the 6 states selected by the National Government Association Learning Policy Academy to create this scalable work-based program, and that's a feather in our cap. Last year, our administration launched Career Connect Washington. Now, that has a goal of 100,000 over 5 years of our youth get into these high-paid apprenticeship programs. That is ambitious, but it is an achievable goal. And it follows in May with our first Governor's Summit on Career Connected, a learning initiative. And we had over 1,200 participants from around the state. People get this. They really get this. By the way, this is the most bipartisan thing we're doing in the state of Washington right now. So nothing gets both Republicans and Democrats to applaud with this issue. So this is a beautiful thing when the R's and the D's can sing together on the same song sheet. And it's very much the case. So I just want to thank you. Now, what do we got to do? We got to continue. We got to develop our 10-year plan for a business-led statewide youth apprenticeship program. Now, the first thing I said there is the most important, which is business-led. We got to get business leaders to really step up to the plate and embrace this, because that's really where the resources are going to ultimately come from. It's where the support system will be. It's where we will get advice about how to fashion the certification program. It can only be successful with business leadership. So this is the right group to talk to about that, because this is the group that can inspire business leaders to figure out how to fashion this. And this is not something that's going to happen overnight, because if you talk to the Swiss business leaders, I ask them, why do you do this? Why do you kind of subsidize the first couple years of your apprentice? It isn't maybe really economically productive. Maybe they become economically productive in years 3 and 4. And they just said, because we realized that my competitor has Johnny, and Johnny may come to work for me rather than my competitor. So they have embraced this as a nationwide, if not obligation, at least self-enlightened self-interest. So, summary, thank you. We're on to something big. We've had a great start. I hope you will favor me with any of your insights or critiques. I want to thank Tim for your leadership on this. How about a round of applause for Tim, because he's just doing a great job. On the back, I see Maud Duran, who's been doing super work in this regard, and I appreciate her still being in the harness of public service. Maud, thank you very much. So let's go build some super awareness. Thanks a lot.